Hi, my name's Maria and welcome back to my channel, Maria Might Read That. And today we're talking about my 2023 reading goals. I did a 2022 reading audit where I kind of looked at different trends from my last year of reading and what worked and what didn't work for me. And that's what kind of inspired these reading goals. I do have 6 main goals, mostly because 6 is my favorite number and that's just kind of what I narrowed it down to. And then just kind of a few other like miscellaneous categories as well. My first goal is to read at least 1 sequel each month. And this is just to keep me on track with kind of my ongoing series so that I'm not starting a lot of series and not really continuing with them. This isn't normally a goal that I would need to make because I usually, in terms of like my type of reading, I'm very much a series binger. But last year I actually didn't get to a lot of sequels. I read a lot of first books in a series and didn't continue on. So for whatever reason, I really need to make sure that I'm continuing to prioritize this. So I put 1 sequel each month. I'm hoping it'll be more, and I'm really hoping I'll be able to binge through some series as well, but this is at least keeping it reasonable for myself so that if I do have other obligations going on, I can kind of at least still check this off and keep myself carrying that momentum forward. My second reading goal is to read at least 1 book off of my physical TBR bi-monthly. I didn't want to set this as a monthly goal just because, again, I do have certain kind of commitment reads and then I do want to be prioritizing sequels, so it felt a little bit restrictive to put this as a like monthly goal. I do also have a lot of my physical TBR books are new series, so it kind of, those two just were conflicting each other. So I've set it bi-monthly. This was a genius idea that Mel from Eleanor Reads suggested. I don't know why my brain always thought, oh, you can only set a monthly or an annual goal. Bi-monthly is genius. And if bi-monthly feels too overwhelming, I might even change it to quarterly. So we'll just kind of see how I feel about this. But I do want to be making my way through my physical TBR. I just have a lot of other kind of series and books that I'm excited about that I don't necessarily own. So I don't want it to be my highest priority, but I want it to be something that I'm kind of, again, keeping at the top of my mind and still kind of carrying some momentum forward with. My third goal is to reread 2 favorite book/series. I'm hoping it'll be 2 favorite series that I'll reread, but I put books just because, again, I kind of want to be gentle with myself. My mental health hasn't been in the best place last year, so the goal with all of these goals is to take it super easy. So if anything gets too overwhelming, I'm going to change it, cut it, whatever I need to do to make myself kind of not put too much pressure on myself, because at the end of the day, as we all say, it's a hobby. So there aren't really like things that I have to do with reading. They're just things that I want to do and kind of focus on. So with that in mind, I'd like to, again, reread 2 of my favorite series. Rereading gives me a lot of joy, but if that's something that is just not fitting in well, and if I decide that it's doing the opposite, I will cut that. But at the moment, the ones that I'd like to focus on, I've started a reread of the Thief series by Megan Whalen Turner. I read the first book of that, or reread the first book of that in December. And so I want to carry that forward, and I don't see any issues with making my way through that whole series. And then I would really like to also reread the Greatcoats series by Sebastian de Castell, which is my favorite series of all time. I've been itching to reread that pretty much ever since I finished it. So that really is something that I would really, really like to squeeze into 2023. There's plenty of other series that I'm always kind of excited to reread. The Daevabad trilogy, the Greenbone saga. There's so many series that like I love revisiting the worlds of, but again, only if I kind of am in the mood for it and it fits into everything else I'm doing. So keeping that super relaxed. My fourth goal is one that I'm still kind of trying to train myself into doing, which is to DNF more, specifically even if I'm at more than 50% into the book. So if I'm at 60 to like 80%, I'd like to DNF more within that category. And I talked about this a bit in my reading audit, where basically I was finding that it's harder for me to DNF adult fantasy series earlier than 50% into them, just because a lot of times there's a lot of world building and setup that you have to get past. So I was finding that I wasn't really getting a feel for the book that early on, and I wasn't DNFing. But then once I'd passed the 50% mark, it felt like, oh, I should just finish it off and then I can count it as a book read. But that last, like, let's say I was 60% in, that last 40% was taking me a long time, putting me into slumps, because at that point I did know I wasn't into the book. So I'm trying to DNF more even if I'm further in, because even if it's, you know, still another 200, 300 pages, and that feels like something that I could just like quickly get through, that's time that I could be reading other books and not getting into slumps. So that's something that I'm trying to put into practice. I'm going to see how I feel about it and how it's working for me, but so far it seems to be doing well. I did already kind of put it into practice in December with Priory of the Orange Tree, which I did DNF at 65%, and was something where I noticed I did kind of go back and forth a lot and was like, maybe I should finish it. But I held strong, and I think so far it was the right decision. So already trying it out. I think it's going to work for me. So that's what this goal is for. My fifth goal is kind of a purchasing goal more than a reading goal. And that's to buy fewer new releases and instead wait for my library to get them. When I did my reading audit, I found that I was purchasing a lot of new releases and not necessarily getting to them right away. So a lot of what my physical TBR is now made up of is 2022 releases that I bought and haven't gotten to. And so I was finding that that just wasn't a smart plan for me because now they're available at my library and I could have easily just waited since I didn't end up reading them anyway. And I'm the type of reader where I prefer to borrow books from a library and then buy them once read. That's just kind of my preference. And so I want to work through my TBR slowly with that kind of second goal that I talked about, and then also try not to grow my TBR, my physical TBR, too much by also not bringing in as many new releases. I do have some exceptions to this. I can buy from authors I already know and trust, or from series that I have already owned some of the books of, or I've kind of already started and therefore I'm continuing on with. And then I can also buy some select, really selective special editions, because I know that there will be probably some that I am very tempted to get that might include new releases. So I just want to be super selective about those rather than buying a bunch and not kind of thinking through my purchases. And my sixth goal is to just always have an ebook going. I've noticed that when I don't have an ebook and I'm primarily reading like a physical book, I will often not read in bed when I'm kind of getting sleepy, or maybe when I wake up and I don't want to necessarily turn the lights on right away. So I've just noticed that there's a lot of opportunity times when I could be reading, and if I don't have an ebook going, I kind of will do something else. I'll scroll on my phone or I'll watch something instead. And I want to give myself that option of always having that book ready to go. I just think this is something that will help me probably read more and slump less, and that's kind of why it's on here as a goal. So those are my main 6 reading goals. I do have, like I said, a few miscellaneous ones, one of which is that I am setting my Goodreads goal to 50 books. This is actually my first time doing the Goodreads goal. I usually don't set a yearly number of books for myself just because I feel like the idea kind of stresses me out. I want to try it this year. I want to challenge myself a little bit, but it's one that I may scrap halfway into the year if, again, I feel like it's overwhelming me or putting stress on me that I don't need. I read 45 books last year in 2022, and for me, that's a big achievement, especially since I did have 2 really big kind of mental health and life slumps where I didn't read much during the year. So I was really proud to get to 45. And I think that if I don't have those 2 big slumps, then hopefully I can easily get to 50, because there were just good chunks of the year when I hadn't been reading. So hopefully 50 is a bit of a challenge in the sense that it's higher than last year, but also reasonable and doable. That's what I'm hoping. Like I said, if 50 books feels like it's stressing me out, we're just going to scrap this and forget that this goal ever happened. But for now, I'm feeling in the mood to kind of try it out and see if it motivates me. I'm not setting a lot of channel goals just because if I can even film videos and be semi-consistent with it, I will consider that an achievement. I've yet to be able to kind of get that steady for my channel. So that's something that I really hope that I'll be able to do in 2023, but I'm limiting my channel goals for that reason. I don't want to, again, overwhelm myself or anything like that. The goal is to go easy on myself. And so the only channel goal that I've kind of set is that I want to find kind of an easy thumbnail formula for myself to use. And that's because I've noticed that one of my least favorite parts of putting up videos is the thumbnails and kind of the creativity that usually is involved in them. I'm just not a very visually creative or artistic person. And so I just don't enjoy thumbnails very much. I kind of want to just find an easy formula that I can kind of plug things into, where I have kind of my background that I use and my text font that I use. And then if I want to get creative with it on a specific video and I'm feeling in the mood, then I can, but it's not the stressor that's kind of preventing me from putting up videos or taking more time than I want it to be. I might have to rope Cassidy into helping me with this one a little bit, depending on kind of my own progress, because she's amazing at thumbnails and has helped me with a few of mine, and I've been so grateful. So I might end up asking for some help, but the idea is to then just have something that I can use and kind of just change up for every video. So those are pretty much all of my goals. Kind of a few little notes that I wanted to also mention. I was going to make reading Priory of the Orange Tree a goal for 2023 because it was the oldest book on my physical TBR, but I actually checked that off in December, so hooray for that. I ended up picking it up randomly and completely being inspired by The Broken Binding doing their special edition set. And I think I mentioned earlier that I did end up DNFing it. So that book is going to be unhauled, and I have checked that off my physical TBR and it's no longer looming over me. So I'm happy about that. Let me know what your goals are down below. This is my favorite thing about the new year, is that kind of goal setting energy and just how everyone revisits their past goals and looks at what did or didn't work for them and then sets new goals and priorities. I just love that energy of the new year. So I really would love to hear what you are setting for yourself. I'm wishing us all a very happy, successful, and great reading year in 2023. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all, and I hope you have a lovely day.